Welcome to the channel. We are here again at this time of the week because it's time to talk about all the latest news in F1 and the wider motorsport world. We've got plenty to get into because we've had this week's test for F1. So 10 out of the 11 of the current F1 cars have been hitting the track in Barcelona this week, so we've got plenty to talk to you about that. There's other F1 news, and of course there is a race this weekend in Miami. It is Formula E, and I'm going to tell you how and when you can watch that too. So let's get into it. So first of all, this is the Motorsport channel. If you haven't subscribed, please make sure you do. We have split the channel, so there's not many subscribers here yet, so it is imperative that we try and build that up as best as possible. I split the two channels from the car channel and the Motorsport channel, just to keep the content in separate places. Over on the Gawne in 60 Seconds car channel, we've got a ID buzz killing Kia PV5 passenger. We've also got a Verizon van on the channel, so that's really cool. We've got the Kia EV9 review landing on Tuesday, and then on Thursday we should have a Polestar 2 review as well, so plenty of reviews and stuff to get into over on the car channel. But let's get into the F1 news, shall we? So, first thing is I'm looking at the race website, which is a great source of knowledge. They had people on the ground at the test, even though it's a closed test. So they've got all the best information. They know people in the paddock, so we can really trust what they say. I'm not going to go through everything they've written and posted because that would be daft. So please do go over to therace.co.uk, the-race.com, sorry. For all of the information in depth. We're just going to touch on it here. But we are going to go through this test. So the test was 5 days in Barcelona. As I say, 10 of the 11 teams turned up, and they were allowed to run for 3 of the 5 days. Williams did not turn up, which is a massive shame. Massive shame for Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon. The car was not ready. And from what we understand, it seems like the nose did not pass the crash test. So they've had to make it heavier to get it through the test. And I know James Vowles has been talking about breaking every procedure to try and make it so that he can bring them up into that top level of team like he was used to at Mercedes. And I think he's pushed it a little bit too far by pushing the design time out and therefore restricting the build time of the car and getting it through the crash tests, and perhaps not giving themselves enough time to do so. A massive shame. They have got the car on testing rigs, and they will be doing a shakedown day, a filming day, before the 2-week tests in Bahrain. So they will be there or thereabouts, but it is a massive shame for them because, of course, every mile you do in a Formula 1 car, you are learning. So as we look at this screen, we can see that the laps completed by team, Mercedes absolutely smashed it with 500 laps on the nose. Ferrari 442, Haas 386, Alpine 349, Racing Bulls 319, Red Bull only 303, McLaren 287, Audi 240, Cadillac 164, and Aston Martin 65. So Mercedes absolutely smashed it, and Ferrari right there with them. Haas right up there as well. So the Ferrari power unit has put in some serious mileage, which is great. The Mercedes power unit also doing really well in the back of the Alpine. McLaren, not great, but they didn't turn up at the start. And then Red Bull spent 2 days repairing the car after Hajar binned it. If we look at who's running on which days, you can see that the laps per day, Red Bull did 107 laps on the first day and 118 laps on the last day. They only managed 78 laps on that second day because Hajar crashed, and then nothing Wednesday, Thursday, of course, because you can only do the 3. But that crash did cost them some laps indeed. If you look at McLaren, not an awful lot of laps across those first 2 days. They did have quite a few niggly problems that they had to go and look at and sort out before they could turn up on the following day. But 166 laps on the last day should give them some belief that they're going to be able to do it. Aston Martin, one to look out for. Nothing Monday, Tuesday or Wednesday. Only turned up right at the end of Thursday with 4 laps for Lance Stroll. 61 laps for Alonso is not a lot of laps at all. And Audi, not a great deal at the start, but then at the end, 145 laps on Friday will make them feel a lot more confident going forwards. Alpine, not too bad, not the greatest start, but 125 and 164 respectively on Wednesday and Friday. Cadillac, probably quite slow to get out. 44 laps on the Monday, 66 laps on the Thursday, and only 54 on the Friday. Quite a few niggly problems to get through. Not the greatest start for them at all. But remember, they are starting from actual scratch. They are brand new. No old team to buy off. All new faces, getting used to each other. So hopefully, the whole point of the Shakedown is to get out of those niggles, get out of those cobwebs, and learn how to work together properly. So hopefully, that really helped them. And we'll see, I suppose, in Bahrain. Now, if we look at the times, you've got laps completed by engine manufacturer, of which Mercedes is by far the best, then Ferrari. The Red Bull powertrains 622 is not bad at all, actually. That's proved to be quite reliable. Obviously, where it struggled with miles in the Red Bull, it's absolutely pounded out the miles in the Racing Bull. Audi 240 laps, which is the lowest, of course, other than Honda, which only turned up at the very end. Audi, are they going to be worried by only 240 miles? I don't think so, because they picked it up at the end. But again, the Shakedown is there for these kind of issues. Now, times, you can take times with a bit of a pinch of salt, but is it time to get excited? Because Lewis Hamilton, with the best time on the last day, 1:16.3. George Russell, Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Kimi Antonelli, and Oscar Piastri making up that top 6. So if you're to take these results, these times, by face value, you would say we're going to have a three-way fight for the title with Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren. I don't believe that to be true, but it is incredible to think how close those times are. All the teams have gone away over many years, all their different budgets, all their different partners, all different people, and have put all their time in to building these completely different cars, and they've come up with cars that lap within tenths of a second of each other. It is absolutely insane, and I absolutely love it. The times do get a little bit longer as we go further down. If you take a look here, Gabriel Bortoleto 1:20, Alonso 1:20, but Lance Stroll did not set a representative time because of 1:46, so that was particularly bad. Look at the two Cadillac guys down here, both in the 1:20, 1:21s, so neither of those put in a respectable time, because let's look at these times. 1:16, that's more like the race times we were seeing last year. So these cars don't look like they're going to be massively slower than last year, certainly on this type of circuit. Laps completed by driver, George Russell 265. Ocon, how's Ocon up there? 239, that's amazing. Then Antonelli, so Mercedes clearly leading the way. Leclerc, Gasly, Hamilton, Norris, Hadjar, Lawson onwards. And then you've got Lance Stroll at the bottom with his lowly 4 laps. So there you go. One thing to point out on here on the race website is there is an in-depth look at the Aston Martin that we've only seen from a couple of shots at the track. It does look very different to any of the other cars we've seen. So is this Adrian Newey cooking? Has he got something up his sleeve? Has he only bought it on the final day because they were struggling? Or has he bought it on the final day because he wanted to hold off showing people what he had in his hand? It does look very different. Gary Anderson's been out of his squiggly lines and can have a look and tell you what all of those differences mean and what it should translate to in terms of track time, but I'm no expert, so I'm not going to get into that. So if you're into the aero side of things, go and have a look at Gary Anderson's deep dive on that, because it is fascinating. I couldn't tell you that I understand it completely, but that is a very interesting look. Now, coming up on Netflix is an F1 documentary releasing this year, 2026, on Michael Schumacher and the 1994 season. This is a season close to my heart, and I know you're going to go, oh, he's old, but this I tell you, this season was the season in which we lost Ayrton Senna at the start of the season. Damon Hill, of course, was his teammate, and I was a big Damon Hill fan in the early 90s. So watching Hill take on Schumacher, take on the pressure of leading the Williams team that had lost the great Ayrton Senna, and it coming down to one single point going into the final race in Adelaide, it still gives me feelings now that it was such a difficult day, that Adelaide that Adelaide Grand Prix, and I think there's got to be a picture. There is not a picture on there. Most of us know how that ended, with Schumacher taking Hill out to win the title. So there's going to be a Netflix documentary on that. I'm very much looking forward to seeing that and seeing their take on it. That's definitely one to watch. So as soon as we get a release date and a trailer, we'll come back to that. But just seeing that makes me, I don't know, I'm very excited to see how they tell that story. So Williams. So James Vowles has released a statement where he was talking to camera saying that they passed crash tests weeks ago, and they were intending to be in Barcelona. Now, there is some information that has come out that they hadn't passed the nose test, but they had passed all the chassis tests, and the way he worded it was slightly interesting. But obviously, we've already talked about that. So from the racefans.net, UK Charity Commission is investigating the FIA Foundation. So this is quite a big thing for Mohammed bin Sulayem. Of course, he has made lots of sackings and changed the way lots of things at the FIA run. So the inquiry will examine the extent to which the trustees complying or have complied with their legal duties in respect of the administration, governance and management of the charity, with particular regard to examine the relationship between the charity and the non-charitable organisation. So is money that's going into the charity finding its way into the FIA? There's a lot to look into, and that's probably going to take years of investigation. But again, it's just another mark on Mohammed bin Sulayem, because he looks a bit dirty, if you know what I mean. He does look like he perhaps isn't the most ethical leader, shall we say? I'll leave that at that, and we'll see how that goes. But there you go. That's one to watch for. So if we go to WEC, the World Endurance Championship, on the subject of Endurance Championship, I really enjoyed IMSA last weekend. That was brilliant racing. I watched some of it. I didn't stay up all 24 hours, but I did watch some of it. And the racing was absolutely brilliant. They were ding-donging right until the last lap, so it was absolutely fantastic to watch. If we look at this, Honda are poised to join the WEC the hypercar class. Can't get my words out this morning. So that's fantastic. Another team adding. But then on the other flip side, the Alpine WEC hypercar program looks to be in jeopardy. So there you go. That's a worry and delight in the same 2 pages. So last of all, we have the Miami E-Prix. Now, Formula E is absolutely fascinating and it has been really, really exciting. One thing I think if you are an F1 fan, you've not into Formula E yet, bear in mind that Formula 1 this year is going to be a lot more about energy management with the 50% battery power. So if you want to understand a bit more what that's like, definitely get yourself over and watch the Formula E. Formula E is also free to air. It's on ITV, so it's definitely worth watching. The racing is always bonkers, if not spectacular, and the cars are blindingly quick. Being EVs, they have a much quicker acceleration time. It is on ITV, but it's not on the linear channels. It is on ITVX, qualifying at 2:30, and then the race is live from 6 PM on ITVX. If you have Virgin TV, it's also on Virgin TV Showcase. So that's why I chose that channel, to show you what it's on. But yeah, it's on from 6 PM on the race itself, qualifying at 2:30, all on ITVX app, and then also on Virgin TV Showcase. So plenty to get into. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please tell me what you think. What do you think the testing tells us? Do you think that Mercedes are clearly out top? Do you think Mercedes, Ferrari and McLaren are going to be duking out? Or do you think Red Bull with their brand new powertrain will be up there as well? Let me know your comments below. Please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.